Michael Ricks, and this is the Tenchi Muyo panel. So, of course, I'm sure all of you know what Tenchi Muyo is, or else you probably wouldn't be here. And if you don't know what Tenchi Muyo is, fantastic, because this is a great place to start. Okay, so everybody knows Tenchi Muyo. Just want to make sure everybody knows what it looks like in Japanese, just so, because it's wonderfully plastered everywhere in the series and so forth, so you need to make sure. Okay, well, of course, when they first originally named Tenchi Muyo, the executive producer decided, hey, this is going to be a comedy. And so he said, it would be really funny if you named it Tenchi Muyo, which kind of means, or has the rough idea of calling it no need for Tenchi, because you really don't need him for the entire series, even though it revolves around him.
Which actually is the name of the manga. That's how it's.
Yeah, it's the first name. It's the name they used for the first manga of the OVA 1. However, there's a few other translations of the concept of Muyo and Tenchi, depending on what kanji you use. So there was other versions of like the upside of heaven and the downside of earth, and it was just really, really silly. There could have been a long 6-word English translation. Thank God they stuck with Tenchi Muyo, because it made it really easy for us Americans to understand what we're watching. Okay, so the originator of the idea of Tenchi Muyo was Masaki Kagishima. Of course, if anybody remembers, Tenchi's last name was Masaki, the House Masaki. Okay, Kagishima is infamous for using staff names, his name, family and friends, places in his city.
Yes.
For character names and character places. So you'll, if you ever know about the prefecture that he is from, all the locations in the city are almost names of people in his series. So all the main characters, the names are based off of locations in his prefecture that he's from. So it's very interesting. And of course, the first OVAs and second OVA series, along with the Carnival, which is kind of like episode 7, which they kind of wedge in between the second and first OVA in the box set, was Hiroki Hayashi. They paired up together and made pretty much the whole concept of Tenchi Muyo. Okay, it was first released on September 25th, 1992. So how old were you when the series started? And it was produced by AIC. AIC is the Anime International Company. I think that's right. So it's, if anybody knows AIC, they have a huge, extensive list of animes that they produce. And I'm sure a lot of you have seen multiple of them. A lot of the animation styles are very similar for the series. And Pioneer was one of the major producers to help publish it to the United States. So if you've ever had any sort of anime by Pioneer, it's probably by them. Okay? Now, for those who don't know the entire thing, there's 5 different series, or OVAs. There's 3 movies and over 6 spin-offs of this series. So it's extensive, it's very large. So it's not necessarily a Bleach or a Dragon Ball where you end up having 700 episodes. You know, it was never meant to be a soap opera. Now, here's an interesting fact that a lot of people don't know, which is kind of the opposite of what happens a lot nowadays, is it was first an animated series, and then they decided to make a manga out of it. So that's interesting. The first manga didn't come out until '94, when they decided, hey, this is really popular. We can produce this as a manga and get even a larger reader audience. So now, characters. There are so many characters in this show. I'm only going to go over the main set of characters, so who the characters are. Now, if anybody has the basic Tenchi Muyo box set of the first O and second OVA, okay, there's a wonderful 3rd disc in here called the Washu Encyclopedia. And this is Washu's version of all the characters, and it has wonderful facts about all the characters and so forth. So I'm gonna plagiarize a little bit because it's fun, and I'm gonna go ahead and use her interpretations of a lot of these characters. Let's see, and I don't have it up. So.
I see. You got Ryoko's wallpaper.
Oh yeah, just you know, you guys have Ryoko. So, Tenchi Masaki, obviously the main character of the series. Despite what people want and who people like as their favorites, Tenchi is the best and main character. And of course, like I said, these are written from Washu's perspective, so her outlook on some of the characters is very comical. Now, for those of you who don't know, okay? Now, I'm sure a lot of these clips are going to raise a lot of questions if you don't have them already in your head when we do the question and answer, because one thing about this series is there's a lot of unexplained material unless you do your research, or you go online and find all the wonderful interviews with the original creators who actually explain it, but they never really explain it in their series. Okay. Now, of course, Ryoko, who everybody loves, despite being one of the main female characters, she's also probably the main sexual interest in the series.
Yeah.
Okay? It's not, despite what people may think, this is not a fanboy. Okay? Despite GXP, Tenchi Muyo GXP, was it's a definitely, you know, made in the in the new millennia, because you know you get a little bit of extra bounce in the breasts and you get a few extra panty shots. Don't ask me, but you know, it's just the way it is now with the new millennia. You know, this was the original OVAs were created back when you could show breasts, and they were just breasts. It didn't really matter. It was kind of along the same concepts of Ranma 1/2, is breasts all the time, but it didn't really, it was just like, hey, you know. So it was very similar in the first, second, and even the third OVA, they kind of kept that same premises. If there was any sort of nudity, it was very...
featureless.
Featureless, yeah. Exactly.
That's how they usually do it anyway. So.
Yeah, which is nice. And of course... And what's interesting about Ryoko is the only other person in the entire series who's more powerful than Ryoko is Tenchi. Oddly enough.
Well, you also have to remember that those two are the advocates for very superhuman god people, so that's why.
Well, we'll go into that later.